Good day, grade 12s. I am starting with chapter 14 today. I think it is on page 127 in your textbook. The topic of chapter 14 is environmental sustainability. As I said, I think most of what is in this chapter will be general knowledge. Okay, so there will be a lot of information here that you will already know, especially if you do bio or geo or any of those subjects. All right, so we're going to start by just looking at what do we talk about when we talk about the environment? What are we meaning? All right, so the environment is the total of our surroundings, all the living and non-living things with which we as humans interact. Okay, now obviously our environment will have a very big influence on human life. We need our environment to be healthy so that we can survive. The healthier our environment is, the higher the quality of life of people will be. Okay, the exploitation of natural resources obviously is a threat to the survival of future generations, especially if we overexploit. All right, the problem is that we are not caring for the environment, so we are not being sustainable. All right, so when we exploit natural resources, we have to be careful so that the natural resources will survive also for future generations in order to use them. All right, so in order to achieve sustainability, environmental sustainability, we need to promote conservation and preservation. We need to make sure that we develop, when development takes place, when industrial development takes place, we actually do it in a sustainable way and use our natural resources sparingly. Yeah, we shouldn't overexploit, we shouldn't overproduce or overconsume, destroying our environment in the process. The idea is that we can create economic growth and development without having a negative influence on our environment, which obviously is very, very difficult. All right, so what if we talk about sustainable development? This is a definition that they ask relatively often. Sustainable development, sustainable means ongoing. All right, so it's a development that is not just once off, it is an ongoing process of development. So sustainable development means the development that meets the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So in other words, what it boils down to is that when we use our environment, when we exploit natural resources now to meet the needs of the present generation, we should do it in such a way that we leave enough of the environment intact so that future generations could have access to the same environment so that they will be able to satisfy their needs as well. All right, so development that meets the needs of the present generation without having a negative impact on future generations' ability to also meet their needs. Okay, when we look at the definition of the environment, I already said environment refers to the physical surroundings and the physical conditions that affects people's lives. It will include the land, the land that we live on, the sea, the atmosphere, the air that we breathe, and it provides a flow of goods and services such as the following. We use nature, we use the environment to satisfy our needs. Nature provides us with materials. Okay, so the environment provides us with materials, for example, soil, water, minerals, timber, and energy from fossil fuels, the tides of the sea, wind power. All right, and then also space to produce food. Okay, obviously, we need space in order to plant food for commercial consumption. We need to erect buildings. We need to develop communications infrastructure. We have to provide for sporting and recreational activities. All of this is only possible if our environment is big enough. All right. Then we are talking about the natural world as a consumer good, okay, in the sense of an amenity, in the sense that it affords us by utility, it has utility for us, it satisfies our need by providing fresh and clean air for us to breathe. It provides water and sunshine, areas for walking, places for holidays, nature studies, the enjoyment of scenery, peaceful surroundings. Right, so obviously we see it as a commodity, basically, an amenity that we don't necessarily pay for, which is part of the problem, all right? But when we talk about the environment, we are referring to the natural world also as a consumer good, that inside of our environment that we use to satisfy our needs with. Utility is the ability that something has to satisfy our needs. We are not able to stay alive without our natural environment, because our natural environment gives us the fresh air that we are breathing and the water for our consumption and areas for us to live in and move around in. All right. Then the environment also provides us with a dumping place for our waste. Any human activity actually does create waste. Okay, so any human activity creates waste that needs to be disposed of somehow. So obviously, the more waste we have, the more negative the impact of our living and production and consumption, the bigger the effect will be on the environment. All right. So environment refers to our physical surroundings, the physical conditions that affect humans' lives, and it provides us with materials and energy, raw materials basically, and energy. It provides us with space so that we can live our lives. It provides us with utility because it provides us with things that we need to satisfy our needs with. And for us also, it is a dumping place for our waste, a place that we use to dispose of our waste.